I'm Jimmy Lewis with Dirt Bike Test, and today we're going to talk about KTM's 2019 350 EXC. This is the mid-size KTM dual sport bike, and actually it's going to be the small dual sport bike pretty soon because the 250 we hear is going away. But anyhow, being that mid-size, they're trying to get that 250-like agility and handling with 450-like power, and that's a reach on both ends, but here's what it really does. The bike comes as a very quiet, compliant, road-going motorcycle that you can ride in the dirt. Quite well, actually. We rode it for a long time with the stock Continental TKC80 tires, but being dirt bike guys like we are, we toss the mirrors, we swap the tires out to some Michelins, and then we really got out in the trail and started putting the bike to work. So a couple things. I'll tell you what I didn't like about this motorcycle, and it's a very small list. The rear fender taillight assembly is junk. It's going to get sucked into the rear wheel. Luckily, we trimmed ours up a little bit to stop it from catching on the tire, especially when you go to a true knobby, and that helped quite a bit. It hasn't fallen off yet, and we have been beating the bike up, but you can actually watch it flap around. You can hear it rubbing, so it's just a matter of time. The other thing I noticed is when we were changing the tires, the rims, the black rims, which look really cool, scratch pretty easy. So you're going to have to be delicate with your tire irons, or they're just not going to be pretty for very long. And then one other thing that kind of struck me is these bikes are now getting so quiet. And we rode this bike so far just stock, everything, air filter, exhaust, other than changing the tires. And you start hearing a lot of noises, and the motor sounds a little rattly. We did change the motor oil, and it quieted it down quite a bit. But now with the Honda that kind of encases the motor in essentially a plastic shroud with all this sound dampening, you're hearing lots of weird things. You hear the chain slap, you hear the bike bottoming out, little things like that. But as far as complaints, that's really about it. Other than that, this is an extremely light feeling bike. It's really agile, so it does have 250-like handling. In fact, we rode along with some other 250s and it felt lighter. Some of that has to do with the power. The power level is probably on par with a 250 motocross bike. If you looked at it, it just doesn't have the snap and the throttle response because it's so corked up. So when you're riding, it has good smooth torque and pull, and it actually revs for a long time, so it makes each gear really usable. Overall, it has a 6-speed transmission, but the ratios are actually pretty close, and this bike tops out at about 88 miles an hour, and it kind of starts hitting the rev limiter. You don't really want to gear it down to get any more top speed, because then first gear might climb and get a little bit high. So the motor, the clutch is insane. The power of the motor is really good for how quiet the bike is, and there's definitely a lot of potential if you know how to uncork it and do some fueling things to play with the exhaust. And we think you should always keep it as quiet as you can when you're doing that. Onto the handling, like I said, very light feeling. It's the PDS suspension and the WP open cartridge fork, and I think KTM hit it out of the park with this thing. For dual sport riding, for anything just below racing speeds, it's going to be as comfortable as you're ever going to feel. And I hear people that, I need to get this modified and that modified. I'm really surprised with the stock suspension. I think it's really good. And then the handling actually is pretty light. Some people think it's a little bit twitchy. This bike sure wouldn't hurt to have a steering damper on it, but it's not unstable. It's just the nature of the bike. To get that light feeling, that's what you're going to kind of sacrifice, is some of that kind of built-in stability feel that the bike has. So overall, super impressed with this bike. It has tons of potential, but even box stock, it's capable of taking you on really good trail rides. I just need a bigger gas tank. So that's it for Dirt Bike Test. Watch some of our videos on the other YouTubes and things like that. Make sure that you have comments. You can comment down below on our tests, and check the website at www.dirtbiketest.com.